Hello, 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 and welcome to day 2 of our Let It Go Emotional Release Challenge. And today we're going to talk about fear because there's a lot of fear going on right now. There's a lot happening with the pandemic that we're experiencing and concerns about the economy and what that's going to look like. And all of this uncertainty is bringing up a lot of fear. I feel you. Okay. And so before we jump into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about emotions in general. Okay. So all emotions are supposed to be temporary. The way that it is supposed to work is that we feel the emotion and then we get the message. We take action based on that message, and then we release the emotion. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? However, emotions can get stuck anytime anytime there's a break in that pattern. For example, some emotions are labeled as bad, and we're not given permission to feel them. And because of that, we squish them down. Like your parents might have told you, don't cry, it's no big deal. Or stop getting so angry. We get shamed a lot for our anger. And sometimes it's just the feeling is uncomfortable, and so we squish it down too. And that happens as well. And so that if we're not willing to feel the emotions, then we can't get the message, take action, and release. It stops us in our tracks. And that's why yesterday, the very first thing we did was permission tapping, to give you permission to feel everything that is coming up for you. You get to feel whatever you feel. And so if you find yourself stuck in that very first phase of the process, I invite you to go back and take a look at that video. Again, it's in the units section of my Facebook group here. Go ahead and take a look at that. It's a really quick exercise. Do that exercise and give yourself permission to feel whatever you are feeling. So the second part of that is we don't get the message sometimes. We feel the emotion. It's really uncomfortable, but we don't understand what it is trying to teach us. And if we don't get the message, it's really hard to take action because we don't know what action to take. And that's why I'm going through these different emotions, because I want you to understand what the message is behind each of these challenging emotions. Okay. The higher vibration emotions, we kind of get the message of those. But yeah, also allow yourself to feel those really good emotions. Sometimes we judge them as inappropriate too. For example, I've been feeling pretty good during this time, and I've been wondering, gall, is there something wrong with me? Because I'm not fear isn't what I'm feeling. And I'm wondering, am I just not taking it seriously enough? Can I actually have permission to allow myself to be happy and excited about some of the opportunities that are happening? The answer is yes. You get to have all the emotions, and you don't need to compete with anybody else. And how one person is having this experience is completely different than you or somebody else. Your experience is your experience. You get to have the positive emotions, the higher vibration emotions, and you get to have those uncomfortable emotions. No judgment. Okay. So, and also I just wanted to point out that I personally have experienced a breakdown in each of these steps with my own emotional processing, and I've learned from it. So again, there's no shame, there's no judgment, just awareness. I want you to be aware of the process so that you can see where there might be a breakdown for you personally. All right, now let's jump in and talk about the fear family of emotions. So I was asked in this group if anxiety was the same thing as fear. And the answer is yes and no. Okay. And so I sat with my GUP. GUP stands for God or Goddess, Universe, or Higher Power. I sat with my GUP and I was asking about the differences. And this is my understanding. Okay, you might understand it differently. And if so, that's awesome. You are welcome to share in the comments your experience and if you have a differing opinion of that. Before we continue, let me double check the comments. Okay, let me make sure this is happening. Okay, I should be, it says live on Facebook. Let me make sure. There it is. Okay, hi Jocelyn, thank you for watching. I see a couple people are watching. Thank you for joining me. And I just wanna make sure that I'm paying attention to the comments for you. Okay, now let's jump back into the fear family. Here's what I think is the difference between these three emotions. Fear is when you are facing present danger or a present threat. Then you get into the fear response. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. That's the fight or flight, right? And it is governed by the triple warmer meridian. Worry is when you are focused on the future. You are looking at the future and you are going over possible negative things that might happen, possible negative outcomes, possible threats to the future. Anxiety is when you have had past experiences that have wounded or even traumatized you. And so that has created this super vigilance so that you are always kind of looking over your shoulder. Okay. And that creates anxiety. And that's really hard because it's really hard to work through the fear if you're always looking over your shoulder, or if you're always looking forward. It's hard to feel like you're safe in the moment when you are caught between those two. Okay, so we all know what fear looks like and what it feels like. It's that hand that clenches at your heart. Your heart races and your breathing, like we discussed yesterday, it speeds up and it becomes shallow and we're a little short of breath. And the other thing that happens is that our senses become sharpened. That's the message of fear. That is the purpose of fear, is that it sharpens our senses and it helps us to become focused and aware. And so when you think of fear, I want you to understand that the flip side of fear is focus. It's calling you to focus your attention on some perceived threat, some possible threat. And so I want you to think of the 3 A's for how to process your fear. First of all, become aware. You need to become aware of the threat. What is your fear telling you to focus on? So first is awareness. Number 2 is assess. You need to assess the situation and determine, is this a big threat, a little threat, or not really a threat at all? Okay, you want to know what level of risk you're looking at here. And then finally, the 3rd A is action. Take action. Okay, what do you need to do to restore your safety in this moment? And again, Just like we can have breakdowns in the sequence of processing our emotions, when we have a breakdown in this sequence, then the fear doesn't go away. We can't release the fear because we are stuck in that sequence. And so take a look and see if you are in a place of fear, if you are in a place of anxiety or worry, see where you are being caught up in that process. Where are you stuck? Are you in the awareness phase where you are hypervigilant and you are always looking? For example, with worry, you're always looking for possible outcomes that might be a danger. That type of hypervigilance is going to rob you of your joy in the moment. And likewise with anxiety, if we are hyper aware, again, that can rob us of our joy in the moment. And so what we need to do is we need to intentionally choose to move on to the next step, which is assess. And again, we can have a breakdown in this point too if we give equal value to every threat. Okay. And this can be really hard if you have had trauma in your past, right? Because that was a really big threat. But you can enlist the help of your gut with this. Okay, there is a spiritual gift that I will be talking about when we get back to our spiritual gift videos. It is the spiritual gift of discernment. Discernment helps you to identify the truth of a situation, the truth of what is going on. And so you can ask for that spiritual gift. Okay. And so when you get to that point where you're feeling your fear, you're feeling your anxiety or your worry, allow yourself to intentionally and mindfully pause, ask for discernment, and assess the threat. You can even do it on a number scale. You can do it intuitively. You can use muscle testing. Okay. So what am I afraid of? And what is the level of threat here? And is it as great as I think it is, or is it much less, or maybe even not really a threat at all? So you go into that place and assess the level of threat. And then the third thing is you don't need to allow your threat to disempower you. Okay, to allow your fear to disempower you. You can take action. You can take action. And again, connect with your gut and ask, what do I need to do in order to meet this risk? We're going to go into an exercise tomorrow, an inner child exercise tomorrow that's really good. But right now, I want to remind you that you are an adult and you have a serious toolbox of weapons and tools in order to protect yourself. Okay, you have boundaries and you have the legal system and you have so many spiritual gifts and your own personality. You have things that can protect you and that you can use to move through any actual threats. Okay, so there you go. My invitation to you is to sit with your fear. Okay, so I forgot to mention today actually is this beautiful full moon. Full moon energy is amazing because it illuminates our emotions and it helps to illuminate the situation. It just brings so much clarity and truth to the situation. So this would be a really good time for you to explore your fears. Maybe sit down and write them out and go through this process. Say, where am I getting where am I getting bogged down in the sequence? Am I hyper aware? Am I not aware of true risk? That could be a possibility. Am I not really assessing it properly? And am I not taking action? Enlist your gut, connect with your gut, ask your gut what you can do today to take back your power and to move forward. Okay, so I gave you a lot of information yesterday, a lot of videos. If you haven't had a chance to watch those, not a problem. This is buffet style. You get to take it at your own pace and you get to visit the videos that resonate most with you. I will have a couple more videos that I'm going to be sharing with you here today, but they won't be as much as yesterday. Okay. You can simply go through them at your own pace. All right. So I'm going to be back in just a moment to share with you a few exercises to help you move through your fear. There we go.